Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as everybody knows, whilst I like talking DC and Marvel, there's a huge part of me that loves a good old indie book, and an indie creator is exactly what we have for you now. We have From Dead Dreams, The Lucid Chronicles #1. We have writer Brittany Mater. Yay! Or Matter, depending on my English. What can I say? Mater, which one is it?
Matter, like antimatter.
Oh, there you go. See, there you go. I'm English. My mutant power, Brittany, is to say names wrong.
Oh, I feel that. I have the same power.
Oh, excellent. So thank you so much for taking time out to join us on today's show. How are you feeling? You all right?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Very well. Very well. So let's cut straight to it. Your book, Dead Dream. There it is, The Lucid Chronicles.
Nice.
Ta-da! How did you get into comics? What was it that kind of threw you into the creative genius that is comic books?
Oh, well, it was probably just reading comics. A friend of mine in college loaned me Batman the Long Halloween.
Ooh, good shout. Good shout.
And then I started reading, other things like V for Vendetta and Watchmen and all the heavy stuff.
Comic book 101.
Yeah.
Read this, it'll depress you.
This.
Now you can go make some comic books.
Exactly. So I just ended up, I think, talking to my college counselor, the guidance counselor, and they found that Fantagraphics Books was in Seattle, and I ended up interning for them, and that's how I kind of got my foot in the door there.
How was that? What was that like? Because back in the day, Fantagraphics were huge.
Yeah, it was 2007, and I just had no concept of comics at the time, other than that they existed and you could get them on racks, and at retail shops. And when I went to Fantagraphics, and they're still located outside of the same location. They're in this big red house. It might not be red anymore. I don't know. It's been a while. In Seattle.
I can see a bunch of fans going around looking at red houses. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it.
Yeah. And it felt, like I was going into somebody's home, but it was also, there's, books everywhere, papers everywhere. And this small team of people who, fit in a house working on all these incredible books. And I was in the basement with another intern, and just kind of got my feet wet with comics.
Back in the day, Fantagraphics were probably one of the biggest indie companies out there. Yeah, they've been around for years. Yeah, and
they at the time, I think they were in the 280s of the Comics Journal. So I got to help out with those, and it was an honor and an amazing learning experience. I'll never forget it.
Cool. Excellent. So from Fantagraphics, got your feet wet. You've read some really good stuff. Long Halloween, one of my favorites. I love Tim Sale art. So I love.
Me too.
Yeah. One of my local comic book stores has on my order. It has a note that says variant covers, Tim Sale.
Oh, nice.
So
I didn't you could do that.
Yeah. Honestly, it's crazy. Any variant cover that comes in on any book that has Tim Sale goes in my pull list.
That's excellent.
That's how much of a fan I am. Yeah. So I even bought the most recent. Did not a reprint. What did they do? Like a revisit, I suppose, with the video coming out, the movie. Not the best, I can admit. It's probably not as powerful as the original stuff, but still looks great.
Nice.
Yeah, I have my wife won't accept that the guy that did the Long Halloween is also the guy that did the art for the painter in Isaac
Heroes.
Mendes in Heroes. Yeah.
Yes.
I
watched that. That was amazing.
I wouldn't even care. We have 2 prints in our bedroom of Heroes.
Nice.
So I was like, that's Tim Sale. She's like, no, it's not. There's no big ears. I'm like, well, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Isaac Mendes. There you go.
Yeah. And he was great.
They were definitely good. So Long Halloween, V for Vendetta, Watchmen, as you said, the heavy hitters, you know. Where'd you go from there then? Because, I mean, you know, some of those books are like the pinnacle. I mean, The Watchmen is in the Times top 100 of books, and it's a graphic novel. So surely everything after that is like a...
No. Everything after that, it was like it opened up, you know, this entire world to me. So after that, a few years later, I interned with Image Comics when they were in Berkeley.
Okay, cool. What was that like? Because, I mean, back then that must have been just as they were getting going, was it? Or was that when they really established? The 2000s, so they really established
halfway through their lifespan. Because I think they've been around, what, like 20 years, maybe 30? I don't even know anymore. It's been somewhere between 20 and 30, I think.
Okay, cool.
But it was also in a small space with a small, you know, crew of people, and learned more about, you know, marketing comics, and ended up being their sort of comics librarian. And they had this space in the back of their headquarters where it was just, you know, floor to ceiling books and the long comic boxes, you know, the white ones.
I have some. I still have,
you have them.
Those. I have them.
Yeah, you know them well. They're really heavy.
I know. There's like 250 to 300 comics in those bad boys.
So that was like, that space was, the ceilings were pretty high. I would say maybe 20 feet.
Okay.
And so I had to climb on a ladder and like move these boxes around, and I became really buff. And so that I got a lot of, you know, exercise out of the experience. And I was, of course, reading their comics in particular. I think at the time it was, of course, Walking Dead, and then got introduced to other creators. I started working at conventions with Image for like 6 years after that.
Cool. Excellent. So you worked with Fantagraphics, a true independent company. Worked with Image, kind of become a true independent after spending the time being the anti-Marvel. It's fair to say.
Yeah.
They're going to hate me for saying that, but, you know, hey-ho.
Well, yeah, they left Marvel, like the founders. You're not wrong. They left Marvel to create their own publishing company.
Definitely. And I mean, look at Todd McFarlane now, his own toy range. Look how fantastic he's done there, you know. And, you know, Kirkman with Walking Dead. It's been a massive comic book. It's been a massive TV show. Has the TV show gone on too long? Probably, but that's just me.
And the spin-offs.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I stopped watching The Walking Dead when they killed the girl at Herschel's farm. I was like, right, I'm done. That's it. Yeah. I'm over. I spent half a season looking for this girl, and she was there all along. I'm done. I'm over it. Cut me out. So, how do you transition then from being this kind of librarian, comic book box climber? I can just imagine you Spider-Man it all the way up these comic boxes, you know, in class.
Yeah, if only I had webs.
Yeah, flip. Okay, so how do you go from kind of being, I suppose, responsible for that, and you've got your marketing stuff? How do you go from being in that area to thinking to yourself, you know what, I've got these stories I want to tell. How do I get them out there? What's the steps for you for that?
For me, the first step I think that I was interested in was editing comics.
Okay, good call.
So while I was working at one of the cons with Image, I met the creators of the Intrepids. So Curtis Weeb, who did Rat Queens, and Scott Kowalchuk. And I noticed...
you got the names right. I would like mess that up big time. So you do know.
Oh, I hope I got. I don't exactly remember how to pronounce Scott's last name. I hope I did it right. But yeah, they didn't have an editor on their book.
All right, okay.
It just come out. I think this was in 2011, and maybe 2010. I don't know. Don't
around that time, yeah.
Yeah,
but I'll give you 6 months either way. It's fine.
Thank you. I asked them, if you're looking for an editor, I'm looking to edit comic books, and so they said yes, and I brought my resume like the next day, and they allowed me to come onto their book on issue 3. So I did 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I started editing comics for indie creators after that. And then at a certain point, I think I just wanted to write them and like try that out and see if I was okay at it.
So I've got to ask you a really rude question. I apologize. I apologize for this right now.
Okay.
So your editor, you've got your edit head on, right? And you say you want to get into writing. Was that because you looked a book came across your desk and you thought, oh my God, I can write better than this?
Maybe. I couldn't name the book, but
no, I'm not saying. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to burn bridges. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I think it was more. I was just inspired by all of the comics that I was reading, and definitely inspired by colleagues of mine like David D.B. Andre and Riley Beale, who I edited his series Miranda and the Maelstrom. And I think just being around that creative energy, being at conventions, I was like, I gotta do more than,
Yeah, it's funny. I've been in a couple of conventions that I've met sort of creators that I've interviewed, and I meet them and I talk to them. I'm like, I get that these all are inspiring guys and girls and women who've just created like some fantastic piece of art or a fantastic story. I've also seen them like absolutely hungover because they've had too much beer the night before, thinking, please leave me alone. I don't want to talk about comic books. I get it. It's fine. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your book directly. Then let's get the picture back up. Dead Dreams, Lucid Chronicles. What's the story? What's the story for someone who wants to pick this book up? What's the hook?
I would say that the hook is Fringe meets Orphan Black. It's a little bit of Total Recall.
Oh, see, I've read this and I didn't get Orphan Black at all.
I mean, it's mostly the doppelgangers aspect, right? It's got doppelgangers and parallel worlds, which is the more sci-fi element. And dreams are drugs.
Yeah, I can see that one. Yeah, that works. That works. I get that. Okay, cool. So, how did you go about creating your team? Because you've got quite a large staff on this book.
Yeah.
Let me just go through some stats for you so we get everybody in. There's yourself there right at the top. Here we go. Sorry for the names. Dalen Ogden is your artist and colorist. You've got Gabriella Downey as your letterer. Flatter is Drew Willis. Now, I understand that Flatter's the person that kind of sets the digital colors to like a base tone for the colorist to go over and do the stuff,
streamlining the process for Dalen.
Cool. So how do you go around assembling that troupe? And of course, you're an editor yourself. What was it like being a writer and then having to deal with an editor?
Oh, I loved it because I am a very detail-oriented person. You're
a takeover Ted. That's what you are. Yeah.
Oh, what?
A takeover Ted.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
So this is so I'll explain a little bit for people who maybe haven't heard what I'm saying. So I have this opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong or not, but in my head, the writer is kind of not only creating the story, but also controlling some of the pace and so on. And the artist comes in and makes it look great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, the writer is also a bit of a mini editor to start with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then if you've been in the comics industry doing like editing or art and you're trying to be a writer, the tendency is to be like, wait, I can do this. And you try and take over, and you become a takeover Ted.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. That's pretty great. I would say my editing brain had to be quiet. So when I was writing, and because I'm so detail oriented and kind of get lost in the details sometimes
that's good
with my own stories, you know, because I'm so close to it, having an editor kept my head on straight and helped me, you know, keep the character voices consistent, help me keep the world building details consistent throughout. And so I loved having an editor.
And that, you know what? One of the things I loved about reading this book is it's a new world book, so it's a new experience. You start from page 1 onwards. You don't spend a lot of time explaining stuff, and that's it for me as a reader who sees so many comic books on a weekly basis. I absolutely appreciate that, because whilst there has to be a level of world building going on, you don't want to get bogged down in the whole nitty gritty, especially if you think down the line the nitty gritty, the fine details, are the things that are going to get a little bit unraveled in order to move things along, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something I learned from my editor, Heather Ayers. They have taught me, and I've worked with them on other comics as well. They've taught me to write in a more quiet manner.
Oh, so I like that. Yeah.
If that makes sense, it's like saying less actually can say a lot more, and to also allow the art to do what the art does best and shows, you know, what's happening. You don't have to use a lot of exposition, and that's kind of what I learned from Heather.
Yeah, show not tell, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So how was it working with your artist on this book? Let me just grab the name again for 2 seconds, because it's gonna slip my brain. He says looking for it. There he is. So Dalen Ogden, what was it like working with him? Because you've got your editor head in, you've got your writer head in. One of you know, there's going to be a little bit of to and fro in that, saying what you want, and then you've got the third voice in Heather coming in to kind of giving you guidance. How was it in that, dealing with Dalen in that relationship then?
Working with Dalen was very easy. Anytime that they'd give me pages, the only feedback I had was basically praise. So it was like going page by page and be like, I love what you did with this character, and I love what you did with this scene. And I should say that I had started with a different team to begin with.
All right,
Artist Harry Connor and letterer Ariana Maher for some pitch pages. And so Dalen and we didn't want to like waste that. So when they redid the pages, you know, so that it would be consistent art throughout the whole issue, they used the layout and staging and sort of composition of Harry's art, so that for the first 6 pages, and even the character design was like a jumping off point for Dalen, and I think that helped them kind of jump right in, you know.
Yeah. So it's kind of like give you like a template to work from. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Ariana Mayer's done some great work. She's getting recognized all over the place. Works on Marvel and DC now, isn't she? So
who did you say?
Ariana Maher.
Oh yeah, Ariana's all over the place. She's amazing.
Is she part of the VC studio? I think she's part of the VC with Clayton. I can't miss a big issue. Cowles. Sorry. I have nicknames for people. It's fine.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. So so the character designs, are these how you envisaged them? Did you kind of work with the artist to kind of come up with this kind of design? The reason I guess I'm asking is that on one hand it seems very traditional, very folklore in places, and then on other times you get the metaphysical going on later on in the book. I'm not going to show everything in the book because I want the readers to go out and buy the damn thing. That's
Thank
the
you.
idea. Yeah. So we're probably not going past this point. All right. So
Okay.
there you go. But so I mean, how do you kind of you're juggling two different genres there before you even get going with the final act, which throws curveballs left, right, and center.
Yeah. So I had pretty brief descriptions for everyone, you know, kind of basic appearance and pretty descriptive background information. And I had a lot of details about each of the worlds, you know, how they're different. And Dalen came in, and Harry to a certain extent, in terms of creating this color story that happens in the book to ensure that the two worlds were visually distinct. And so the colors really represent that. So something that Dalen actually said about the first world is it's more solar punk, while the second world is more steampunk. So and then in terms, I think you were asking about character designs.
Yep.
In terms of character designs, we had Harry Connor's character designs to jump off from, and then Dalen, you know, drew them in their style.
Cool. So there's going to be a mild transition, I guess, between the original concept, the pitch pages, to where you want to be down the line. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened in the behind the scenes. But everything, of course, in issue 1 is all Dalen.
Cool. For everyone who is checking out the bottom of the screen, these are the Twitter feeds for everybody that is linked to this book. So by all means, feel free to pause, check them out, copy them, do what you need to do. Check them on Twitter. There'll be shared loads of information about everyone's work on there, so you can do that at your leisure. Don't pause me, and if you do pause me, make sure my face is in a funny position. Thanks. Cheers. Great. Appreciate that. Thanks. Just checking. So I'm not going to give the game away at all because, as I say, I want people to buy the book. However, you mentioned a couple of influences down the line. I have to say that when I hear the word dreams in comic books, I think of one character.
Yeah.
Sandman.
Yeah.
All right. So, how much of an impact did Neil Gaiman's work? Because if you've read stuff like Long Halloween and you know the classics, I'm sure you'll have come across Sandman. So, how much Sandman is influencing Dead Dreams for you?
I would say a little bit. I gotta be honest, I only read the first trade of this. I know. I need to read them all. To be fair, you don't. I'll let you do a secret. I'll let you do a quick secret. No one's watching. You ready? I've not read a lot of Sandman either. Okay. I'm glad we're in the same boat. But I will say that Neil Gaiman has influenced my writing quite a bit. I would say that Neverwhere, Neil Gaiman's novel,
that's a good shout. Yes.
That definitely influenced the marketplace that you see. I love Gaiman's body of work, really. But I've more read the novels versus.
What was that book? What was that book that I read ages ago? Is it Things You Do? How You Talk to Girls at Parties? There you go.
Yeah.
A short story by Neil Gaiman was turned into a graphic novel by, I can't remember which indie publisher it was that did it, but I absolutely read this book thinking it was going to be Gaiman off on a tangent, but eventually it does become a little bit bonkers. But what a great book. I was like, whoa, totally enthralled. Honestly, How to Talk to Girls at Parties. Yeah. So.
Did you learn something? Because I haven't read that.
I learned not to take your best mate to parties if you want to crack onto the pretty girl because he talks to her.
Oh, yeah.
Damn you,
Okay.
damn you, best mate. Damn you.
I would think they'd be like a wingman.
Well, yeah, but you want your wingman to support you, not take the girl you fancy, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Good point.
Come on, man. Just give him the nudge and say, hey, I quite like that one. And you don't expect him to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey ho, we've digressed.
That's okay.
Right, whilst we get back on track, have a listen to one of our adverts for one of our other shows on the UCPN. So we're talking indie books. So what have I got? I can never find the Flipside Focus one. I'll tell you what, instead of Flipside, why don't you check out, let's go a little bit old school. Check out this advert.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
That's right.
That
the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. If you want to hear about Gaiman, you want to hear about Long Halloween, you want to hear about Watchmen, that's the show to watch. There you go. Check that out. Yeah, great hook. Terrible theme tune. What can I say? Which do you prefer? You've been an editor. You're now a writer. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer creating? Do you prefer shaping? Or do you feel that as a writer, you get to do a little bit of both?
No one's ever asked me that before. I think it's really hard for me to choose. I think because
I'm glad you said something that I thought the internet froze there for a second.
Yeah. I think that as a day job, I'd pick editor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I like writing maybe better
mm-hmm.
because it's not something I typically get paid for when it comes to writing comics.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've only been paid once.
I know that feeling, writing reviews for a website. Yeah,
right.
I don't think I've been paid. Just
and
saying.
And I think that you know how sometimes when money's involved, it makes you enjoy things less.
You know what? That's such a great shout. Absolutely good shout. Definitely.
Then not that I'm saying that I don't want to get paid to write comics. I'm really not saying that. But I
want to do it for the enjoyment, not because it's a wage,
it is
right?
about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is about the enjoyment. Thank you.
It's funny. I like to doodle. I've said this before. And I was working a day job and I was doodling away and stuff. And one of my colleagues said, "Oh, can you draw me a Spider-Man for my son?" I was like, yeah, it's Spider-Man. Yeah, I can draw Spider-Man like nobody's business.
Nice.
Could not get it for the love or money. Could not do it. So I ended up putting together this little picture, put it in a frame. There you go. I'm really sorry it's not as good as you expect it to be. The kid loved it. It. Yeah, me, I'm super critical. I'm like, yeah, that web's out of place and his arm's a bit wonky there. And,
we're our own worst critics.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you draw webs on Spider-Man? Do you know how hard that is?
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah,
I've tried.
There's a reason why I don't draw Satana a black canary, and that's because I ain't got time or patience to draw fish nets on anything. So no.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Done. Yeah, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when someone expects something of you, it for me, even though it's just a daft doodle, it takes away some of the enjoyment and adds pressure onto the whole creative process. I can't just relax into what I'm trying to do. I would imagine that it kind of be a little bit like the same for yourself as a writer. You've got like, right, man, I've got to make this last 4 issues. I'm done in 3. How do I get another 22 pages out of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
So, it's that pressure that I don't necessarily feel when I'm writing.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. So, inspirations. You've talked about a couple of books that you've kind of got into on your comics. What are you currently reading right now?
What am I reading? Here, I have it here.
Ooh, Excellent.
I haven't actually started it, but it's on my to read list. It's Hallowed North.
Okay. Very good.
By Jeremiah Espinoza and Jay Hughes. And it is about depression.
Okay.
And how basically depression is equal to horror, and so it. I'm really excited to read it. It's part 1, and I believe part 2's coming to Kickstarter as well. It was a Kickstarter book, I should say.
Kickstarter's cool. Love Kickstarter. Do you mentioned depression then? So there are mental health aspects within Dead Dreams.
Yes.
Was that a conscious decision by yourself to try and analyze and kind of put out a theory around depression or how people deal with it in different ways? Because it is such a massive topic, and there's no definitive right or definitive wrong when we talk about depression, because it's such a personal thing.
True. I think with Dead Dreams, it was more about abuse and how that can affect the characters in particular. And I did sort of incorporate my own experiences with growing up in abusive environments. I channeled that into the 2 main characters, Pina and Madam, as she is known in the story so far. I call her Matron as well. And so exploring, how that can affect a person as an adult is kind of where I was going with that in their characters. Like, I don't necessarily show their abuse. It's more about, it's a part of their background, and it has shaped them, and it has, it dictates their choices. And so it's kind of showing this duality with these. That's the whole point of like me bringing in these doppelgangers, is to show that, despite growing up in these same environments, they can end up being different people.
Yeah, because this main character who owns the store, or runs the store, he goes from being all right with his lot in life to being pretty down about it. In short shift, he pretty much gets there in a hurry, and then that's as if you're setting the table for the main thrust of the story from that point on. There is the abuse element. Whilst it's not particularly graphic, there is elements of that later on in the book. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, buy the book. I'm not going to show you it. Stop asking me. It's not going to happen. So, how does it feel being sort of like, if this is a personal question, I apologize. You've mentioned you've used your past history for this book. How does it feel being like so kind of open about that? Because you've been absolutely super brave about something that that's happened in the past, and now you're channeling it in a great way to tell a story and kind of get your message out. It's still massively brave, and you're still being massively open.
Thank you. It's, I guess, kind of nerve-wracking, and I was hesitant to talk about it, but I think I got to a certain point. I started writing this in 2016, so it's been in my head for a long time, and I think I got to a certain point where I felt like, well, if I stay silent about this, that's not going to help anything. So I might as well just talk about it and get it out into the world. And because it's not just me who's experienced or had similar experiences to me.
Right.
Tons of people have experienced, domestic violence. And I think shedding light on that is really important. And we have to talk about it, as hard as it is, or uncomfortable. Otherwise it just stays in the darkness and nothing changes.
I think you're absolutely right. The world has gone through this whole pandemic stuff, and the fact that for periods of time people have been locked down in houses with each other, and that And whilst if you're in a healthy relationship, that sounds like, oh, I can't believe I've got the same thing. But if you're in an abusive relationship, that's like you've got COVID, you're stuck in the house, and more, there's where can you go to try and like get out from that? It's such a relevant theme to talk about. Not that I'm not saying that mental health generally isn't a theme. It should be. We should be talking about mental health. Yeah. We shouldn't be scared about mental health. If someone's suffering from something, we should be open to helping them, no matter what that is. Just because I don't feel it doesn't mean that person feeling it is less genuine or less in need of support. It just means somebody feels something different. It's like saying I like football and someone likes baseball. And I'm not going to hit them because I like baseball, unless it's the Yankees, but that's a different thing. But you know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to and I think anytime somebody, I'm all for comic books being comic books and being like, hey, look at us, superhero power and all that sort of stuff. I'm also very fond of comic books as a way to tell a story of a more human nature. And I think when you talk about some of the books you've talked about, not Long Halloween on the end there, but you talk about The Watchmen. There is, that's the deconstruction of the superhero down to its bare bones. And you've got other stuff going on. You know what? I just applaud you. I absolutely do. I think. Thank you. I do. I read the book. I've read the book a couple of times. I've read issue 1 a couple of times just to make. Well, hey, I've got to do my research, right? And there's a part where it turns a little surreal, and at which point I'm kind of like, I'm not sure where this is going. And then the second time I read it, even though I knew it was coming, I was still like, all right, okay, I'm comfortable now. I know what's going on. And then that made me question, should I be comfortable with it going on? Now what's going on? And then I'm thinking, well, is it my reaction? So this whole book from that point on just made me take like a step back and think of things that you wouldn't normally think about. So,
it definitely there's some, I think, philosophy embedded in there, and it asks kind of hard questions without asking them. And I feel like I'm being dodgy.
No. We're not going to give spoilers away. I would like to think. I don't, and this is me just looking from the cheap seats, so apologies for this. But I'm going to say I don't think the questions are particularly hard. I think it's the answers that are the hard part. Yeah. And the hard parts are going to be how individuals interpret the question. Everyone's going like, "Oh man, what's he talking about?" I'm like, "Yeah, go buy the book, man." Yeah. When is issue 1 out? Is it out now? Is it due out? Is it?
It is currently crowdfunding on Zoop.
Cool. Excellent. Let me see if I can find that for you. I will put the dreams Zoop. Oh, there it is. Check me out. Super quick. Let me share this information for everybody. So stop that. Share that. It's like I've done this before, isn't it? Who'd have thought it, right?
I have no idea what you're doing. It's basically magic to me.
Yeah? Magic. Ta-da!
Oh my gosh, look at that. I love it.
There you go, see? Check it out. So where are we at? We are currently sitting at just under $2,000. That's $1,912. You've got 12 days left. So you are well on your way in relation to getting that forwarded on and so on. Brilliant and created. Why Zoop and not Kickstarter? Just as a matter of interest.
Zoop offered to handle fulfillment and shipping.
Oh, yes.
Right? So of course it's for a fee, but I was like, well, sign me up. I would love that help. Thank you. So that's part of what the amount that we're trying to raise will cover the cost of fulfillment and shipping.
Cool.
And they do a little marketing too, which is great.
Cool. Let me just do something more magic then. Let me just grab that, and we shall add that to a banner so that people can see it whilst they are looking at that. Boom. There you go. There's the website, so you can go and check that out at your leisure. So feel free to pause it, read the blurb, go and check out the link. It's all there. All right. I wish you all the best on this book. I think it's a great little book. I think it appeals to a whole host of different people. It could be some Harry Potter stuff in there that people are like, some gaming stuff, as you said, the marketplace, some of the more abstract stuff that happens later on in the book. Mm-hmm. I think all of it is an absolute, I tip my hat, Brittany. Absolutely do.
Thank you.
Well done. It's a really good book.
Thank you. The team will hear you saying this, and I hope
they will
feel good. Yeah,
they will, and I'll make sure that we give you plenty of press on the UCPN. All right, and if you would prefer, as I have a copy of the electronic book, or digital book, I should say. So that from the 80s. Dope. I'm sure we can rustle up an advance review for you as well.
Oh, I welcome it.
Spoiler free, of course.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Brittany's been Brittany, the fantastic guest, talking about her book, Dead Dreams. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Flipside Focus, the show that talks about everything that is independent and small press. And of course, if you want to go back in time to look at some of the books that Brittany's been talking about, don't forget to check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show. All right. Brittany, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time. And we will see you later. Adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.